So good morning. In our last class, we were discussing about the statistical thinking in the age of big data. So while discussing these concepts, uh, we discussed a few examples of email. What are the properties that an email contains? If you want to capture the entire email traces, then what things can act as a feature also. So this entire first module is just these kind of complete theoretical concepts. So data represents uh, some traces of a real world process, and what exactly we want to capture the trace is decided by the data sampling or data collection mechanism. So data sampling is nothing but gathering of the required data, and we will decide how to capture that particular data. So while discussing the data sampling or data collection, data has two properties. One is randomness and uncertainty. So this randomness and uncertainty will arise due to the underlying process itself. So it is part of the process. So uncertainty is always associated with the data collection mechanism, whereas randomness is a virtue of the data itself. So what happens in applications while they are at the development stage, to test the algorithms or process, random data are generated. Okay, so that is the statistical randomness. We have plenty of methods to test the randomness itself. So to simplify the captured traces into something more comprehensible, we need a mechanism which is concise, which captures the data, and that can be represented in a mathematical model or a function of a data. So this mathematical model or functions are called as statistical estimators. So statistical estimator is nothing but a mathematical model that simplifies the captured traces of data and represents it in a very concise way. So the overall process of getting the data from the real world and then from getting back to the real world from the data, it is called as a statistical inference. So process of going from the world to the data and then from data to the world, the two-way mechanism, it is the statistical inference. So statistical inference, it is a discipline that concerns with the development of the method, process, and theorems that allows us to extract a meaningful information from the data that has been generated by a process. So that process may be a stochastic process or even a random process. So stochastic process is nothing but a random process. So random process means it is by the virtue of data, it is random. It is not the random generation algorithm that is generating the data. It is a random. So famous example for random mechanism would be the queuing. So everywhere we have a queue, right? Right in front of ATMs, to in the banks, in the ration shops, in the movie, when we want tickets. So or even when we are visiting the a temple, there will be a queue. So how people will arrive and join in that queue is also the part of a statistical process, because it is people means population. How people will join the queue at what time, how the queue grows. So that is again the concern for a statistician to analyze it. Okay, so then we discuss the populations and samples. Okay, So in statistical inference, a population can be any object. So population means a object or unit under study. So population can be a email, populations can be a tweets, population can be a posts that are being done on an Instagram. It can be a photograph, it can be a video, it can be anything. And the observations or characteristics of this population is important. So the measure as a statistician, these characteristics are measured, or the characteristics are extracted from the object. So that extracted characteristics becomes the set of observations on a population. So we need to have a population, then the set of observations that we want on a population. So next we shall see the populations and samples of big data. So populations and sampling in big data. So in the age of big data, we can record all the users' action at a time. So we can write from the mouse movement to the keyboard strokes. Even when you have opened a browser in a particular window, what is there in the next tab, that contents can also be read. If you have opened a, let us say, a Twitter page, and simultaneously some other website you have opened in another tab, so they can read the data from the other tab also. That is also possible. So does everything we know about a user needs to be stored or not? So that has to be decided. So is there really still a notion for population and for the data to be sampled? So if we had a email, then why do we need a sampling itself? So these kind of questions that arises. So sampling solves some of the engineering solutions. So in Hadoop, to handle the computational challenges, too much of data is there. So sampling acts as a legitimate solution. So sampling of data means, filtering the data to extract only the set of observations that we need. So we never need all of the data. We just need some simple characteristics of the data to have an application. So how much of data we need at the hand, that really depends on what is the purpose. For analysis or for inference purpose, we don't need to store all the data at all the time. So on the other hand, if we have some other purpose, maybe a service purpose, then we might have to need the correct information in the user interface for the user when we are providing a servicing. So this is the sampling that solves some engineering challenges. So it depends on the application, whether it is analysis, inference, or a service application. Then there may be some bias in the application itself. So bias, even if we have access to all the data corpus, of a Facebook or a Twitter, any inference we make from the data should not be extended to draw the conclusion about a humans beyond those set of users that are not there on that particular day. So in Twitter or Facebook, the hashtag analysis will happen. So based on that tweet, so we should not draw the conclusion on the users who are not using that particular hashtag. That's it. So that is the part of the biasing. So there will be, hidden biases in the big data itself. It based on how we analyze the tweets immediately before and after a particular event. So an example of hurricane is discussed over here. So the tweets immediately before and after the hurricane. So what we think on that day, most of the people were in the supermarket or they are partying. So many of the tweets, they come from the different geographical location. So that bias in the data should be eliminated or should be reduced as far as possible. Because if we engage the bias with the data, then our ultimate result may not be accurate or appropriate in itself. So what fits for a certain users may not fit for other users also. So that data has to be taken care. So for example, the average size of the cloths that are being sold in the European market is completely different than the Indian market, because the population characteristic itself is different. So if you go and market the products in the different geographies, then it is the characteristics that plays a very important role, because the size, when we consider the physical characteristics, is different in the Europe than in the African and in the Asian markets. So this bias to make a conclusion about different geography of people can also arise and has to be eliminated when we are sampling the data. So if we think sampling, what population and samples are in different contexts. So in statistics, so it is often modeled the relationship between the population and sample with an underlying mathematical process. So as assumptions are made. So assumptions about the underlying truth, the mathematical structure and the shape of underlying generative process that has created the data. So assumptions are made while mathematically processing the population and the sample. So this particular assumption is also important. So let us imagine again an example of a company having a large set of employees and we have all the emails. So by looking at that email, we can see what is the topic that is being discussed in most of the employees. Okay, so based on that, some assumptions can be made. Based on that email data, we can infer about the email writing habits of an employee, of habits of all the employees. Habit is nothing but the way they write the emails. So that can be assumed or interpreted. So another challenges in the big data include the new kinds of data. So in olden days, data means it is just a bunch of numbers and characters or strings and categories, maybe in a table format. That's it. So in data science, the data has to be versatile. So different categories of data. And as a data scientist, one should be versatile and comfortable to deal with any type of data. So the various types of data include the numerical data, binary data, and categorical data, where we just classify the data into categories, maybe male and female, different animals, or as a flower. So that's the category, that kind of data. Then the text data include emails, tweets, Facebook posts, newspaper articles can be there. Records, database records can be there, user level data, time stamped event data. So event can be anything. The time when we submit something or we press the buttons. So they can all be attached with the timestamp. And log files. So database log files, or the server log files, or user log files can be stored, and they can be part of our analysis. And geographical data, so that is the GPS data. So then network data, so network, how many packets are sent, what is the speed, how many are dropped. So at each router level the packets can be logged. That is also one kind of data. Then sensor data, so nowadays we have plenty of kinds of sensors. So each is capable of generating data. A motion sensor will generate data every, microseconds. It generates data. So that is also part. Then images, videos. So plenty of different types of data are there. So that is also a challenge in big data. So these new kinds of data, whenever we have a new kind of data, new kind of data should be collected, right? So they have to be sampled, again analysis. So sampling has to be done based on the data itself. So we have real-time streaming of data also. So if we analyze a Facebook user level data set of 1 week of activity, then it has to be a time stamped, right? So how do we sample from a network and preserve the complex network structure? So many of the questions that arises is to represent open research questions for statistical and computer science community. So how to represent these different kinds of data that come in real time? So for all of that, new method has to be invented to represent and analyze the data. So finally, we come up with terminology of big data. So we discussed many of the things about big data. How we think about it? It is one. So big is moving target. Okay, so there should be a threshold, right, to define what is big. So for a big data analytics or a domain, having such a threshold may be meaningless. So if today we set it as 1 petabyte, tomorrow we are going to increase. The data is, collection is increasing exponentially. So when the size becomes a challenge, we call it as a big. Is it worth to call it as a big? So this big is just a relative term. So from a traditional data point of view, if we compare the size, so it is quite very large. So that relative comparison, based on that, we call it as a big data. And big is when we cannot fit in one machine. So that is also partially true. So different individuals and companies, they have the different computational resources. So a single scientist data is big if they cannot fit that in a machine. So that's why we have data centers. So data centers will have plenty of storage capacities. So that is when someone call it as a big data. So big data is a cultural phenomenon. So it describes how much data is part of our life, how much we pursue, accelerate, and use advanced technology to process. So big data is always about the 4 V's: volume, variety, velocity, and value. So another V, some authors uh, put one more V and uh, give a meaning to it. So that is how people characterize this big data, depending on its maybe its size, or depending on the machine's capability to handle. Okay, so some of assumptions are also there. Okay, so big data can mean big assumptions, and it contains three revolutions. Big data. So the three revolutions in big data is the collecting and using lot of data rather than very small samples. So that is the first revolution. Second is the accepting that our data is not accurate. That is accepting the mess in our data, which means when we accept there is a mess in the data, the next point is we have to clean it. So giving up on knowing the causes. So we really need not worry about what caused in this particular data. So big in these describes these steps, rather describes that big data doesn't need to understand the cause, given that data is so enormous. So what caused the data to be like this? So we need not worry because the data is so huge, and we need not worry about why data is like that. So it doesn't need to worry about even the sampling error, because it is literally keeping track of the truth, because the data we collect, it is a truth. The way the many articles that are being written, so they have a new approach of big data, telling n is equal to all. So n is equal to all. So what is this n is equal to all? So what is this n is equal to all? So n means it is the population. So is equal to all means what? So it indicates we no longer have to sample, but we have the entire background population. So this was the phrase n is equal to all. So it came into picture in a voting actually. So when they wanted to count the votes, so all the votes, right? So when they want to decide anything in the voting, they have to count all the votes, right? So that is where this phrase came into picture, that is n is equal to all. So which means there is no need for sampling. Why sampling not required is because the sample includes everyone. So whatever is in the population, that is there in the sample. So that is the meaning of n is equal to all. So n is equal to all includes all the objects are in the sample. So but in some application is it good? So, but is n is equal to all really a good description of most of the data sets we are using? So that depends on the application itself. That can we apply n is equal to all or not? Whether n is equal to all is an assumption or it is a fact about the data. So that is where this particular phrase is being used. So this particular n is equal to all. So it is one of the biggest problem in the age of big data. So a way of excluding voices of the people who don't have the time, energy, access to cast their votes in all sorts of informal and possibly pronounced elections, right? So if people doesn't vote, then do they count? So that is another question. So data is not objective. So another way in which we can assume that n is equal to all, no, where they can matter, is that it often gets translated into idea that the data is objective. So it is wrong to believe that the data is objective or that the data speaks. So beware of people who say that their data doesn't speak at all. So all these things what we are discussing, so it is just a um, theoretical discussions or articles that are being written on what big data is. So far in all the classes we have today till now, so we haven't discussed anything technical. So we are just simply lingering around the various articles that are written. So even the syllabus in the textbook, it is like that. So they are simply keep on discussing what is written in which article. They pick up a random example and they are just throwing it. So that may seem boring for you people. So another case on the another spectrum for n is equal to r, we have one more case, that is n is equal to 1. So n is equal to 1 means uh, only one population is there, sample size is also 1, and that itself is a data, right? So in olden days, the sample size of 1 would be useless. So, or it is described as ridiculous, because we would never want to draw inference from an entire population by looking at a single individual, right? So whenever we have elections, so whenever we have elections, there will be opinion polls and exit polls. So do they conduct, almost all the televisions put their numbers. So do they conduct the surveys on an entire population? No, they will not be, the population is so huge, they cannot do it. But instead, what they do is, so some agencies, follow their own methods. So everyone, most of them keep it secret how they created or just cooked up uh, the numbers, or they will go to a particular geography, take 4 or 5 people's opinion, and then they start predicting it. So that is, the number of samples. So what if they take only one person's opinion and say that is going to be the result? So that is also possible, that when n is equal to 1. So in big data age, so n is equal to 1, takes the meaning that from a single person, we are actually, predicting or inferring about the entire population itself. So next, we have one more concept, that is modeling. Okay, so we'll stop here for today's class. So in our next class, we shall discuss about the data models, different modeling. What is a model? Then what is statistical modeling? Okay, so how do we build a model? and the different probability distributions that exist. What is a random variable? So fitting a model. So what is overfitting of data? Okay, so those things we shall discuss in our next class. So you can put your attendance in the chat window and exit.